Yo everybody, welcome back to another episode of Big Avocado hosted by ya boy, Willy Boy Stimson. As always, we are going to be transforming this village that is around me that we've been transforming, and as I've been on my drives, I have just been recording me talking about some of my thoughts on some just random topics that I'm either passionate about or that I feel like are relevant to the time or my age or whatever it is. And basically what I'm going to do right now is instead of just talking you through my building process, I'm going to just start building and overlaying that audio on top of me talking about things. So we're going to try it out. Maybe it'll fall flat on its face. Maybe it'll be really good. We'll see. But the idea is to try something new and hopefully create some interesting brainstorming and discussion about some really cool and relevant and important topics. So please let me know if you like this structure. I hope that it actually works, but please let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to hear any and all of your feedback and thoughts. And yeah, thank you all for the support. I hope you're having a great day. God bless. Let's get into the video. Yo, what is up, Big Avocado Squad? I hope y'all are all having an absolutely wonderful day. Today, we are going to be diving into a brand new topic that we haven't talked about before. Today's topic is relationships, why you should avoid them and why you should be a part of them. I think relationships are one of the most beautiful thing in human existence, not just romantic relationships, but also relationships in general. Also, I've obviously I've talked about my relationship with my friend Eli, my best friend. I've also, mentioned briefly other relationships in my life, whether it be my family, whether it be even my relationship to my pets is a really special thing to me. I genuinely think humans were created to be in relationship with one another. And before you say, oh, but I'm an introvert, don't even with me, because I'm such an extrovert, but also even when you're spending time by yourself, you're still spending time with yourself, if that makes sense. Like, you have a relationship with yourself, and I can go into the details of what I think that even means, but even when you're sitting by yourself, you're with yourself. And if you're a Christian, any time that you are spending time by yourself, whether it's intentionally, unintentionally, desired or undesired, you are spending time with God. You are spending time not just alone in a black abyss of nothingness. You are with Jesus there, sitting there. Even if it doesn't feel like he's there with you. His Holy Spirit is inside you. So life is all about relationships. Even being in the corporate world, it's all about who you know. For kids going to college nowadays, it's more about networking and about talking to people and about knowing professionals in the field that you want to go into than it is about getting a degree or getting credentials. While those things are important and oftentimes necessary, it is far more important to know important people than it is to do important things, if that makes sense. And so this is one of the reasons you're getting colleges struggling and having to do budget cuts, because that is the thing that's happening. It's happening to my university. It's happening to a lot of different universities, because kids are realizing that in our current social structure, it is way easier to just know people and spend your time networking and being online and doing those sorts of things. It's more worth your time, it's more worth your effort, it's more worth your money than it is to just take this class or do this thing. Most of the time, the reason why you take a class is because of the professor teaching it now. It's because this person has something to offer you. And especially for me in the theater world, there are several of my professors who've done some pretty big things, not like crazy, but one of my professors actively performs at a theater in Dallas, a few hours away, that I really want to get involved with. And so one of the best ways to have an into that theater is to interact with this professor and talk with him and have a relationship with him. And that's not the only reason I have a relationship with this professor. I originally met this professor because he was super kind to me, and he's taught me a lot of really cool things, and I love his view on theater and on life, and he's a very strong Christian person and a family man and a guy that I really look up to. But also, it is really convenient for me that he performs at this theater, and that when he's there, he can recommend not only can he recommend things that theater is doing to me as a performer who's trying to find work, but also he can recommend to that theater that they cast me because I work really hard and I'm really good at what I do, if that is genuinely true about me, and that's what he thinks. So that's just to say that life is all about relationships. But the reason why I really do want to talk about this topic is because I do want to talk about romantic relationships. I've talked about friendships. If you want to hear my talk on friendships, I talked about it a lot in the story of the Waco Boyz, so go check that video out. I'll add a card here or put the link in the description. But I really do want to talk about romantic relationships, and I'll share with you my credentials to be talking about this. Is not anything crazy. I'm not married. I don't have a family or I mean, I do have a family, but it's like my parents and my siblings or whatever. I don't have a wife and kids or whatever. But I do have some credentials. I've dated a few people over the course of my life, a few times in high school, once in college, and I don't know, it's just a really interesting thing that I honestly think the game is changing a lot in our world. Like, that's even something I've seen being in middle school, transitioning into high school, and then eventually going to college, is our world is so rapidly changing, even just in the way that we interact with other people, not just in an online sense, but also we interact with people differently than we did 20 years ago. I don't know, I think relationships are just such a big part of life, and it's so worth it to discuss romantic relationships, because I think it's really easy to get caught in this cycle of, oh no, that's a private topic. That's something I don't really want to discuss. I think it's an embarrassing thing for some people to talk about because, you know, some people like me are single and have been for a really long time and would like to be in a relationship. And especially in my phase of life, I'm 21 years old, I'm in college. I have some friends who are actively engaged, getting married, having kids. And then I have other friends who are literally in high school and have just gotten their driver's license. And it's such a weird area to be. And if you're in my phase of life, you're probably also working through some of these things where you're like, what does it mean to be in a relationship? Am I even lovable? Or, you know, if you're on the other side of that, you're like, oh, should I propose to this person? Like, is this person I want to spend the rest of my life with? And I just want to kind of talk about some of these things because I genuinely think it's so important. And one of the place I want to start is actually a conversation I had with Eli, my best friend, recently, because obviously I love Christianity. I'm a believer in Christ, and I'm a child of God through and through. But I think sometimes the Christian culture, at least where I live in the Bible Belt in Texas, kind of gets it wrong sometimes, because a lot of people I've found, when I'm like, yeah, I really don't want to be single, I'd love to date someone, I'd love to get married, you know, right out of college, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the plan. People are like, hey, I'm sorry about that, but like, remember, you know, God has someone for you. There's someone out there, and God's gonna bring them into your life, and it's gonna be beautiful. You just have to wait for that and to be patient. And I really appreciate that. And I think that, you know, when people say that, they're always trying to be nice, and because if they didn't care, they probably wouldn't say anything at all, or would just be like, well, yeah, sorry, that sucks, dude. But I'd almost rather someone sit there and listen to me as I'm discussing these things, because I think, like, I don't know, my knee-jerk reaction whenever someone says something like that is to basically be like, well, yeah, maybe, but also, like, God doesn't promise that. Like, there's people that have gone through their lives and wanted to be married and haven't had a marriage relationship. Or, like, there's a story in the Bible, I think it's maybe Elisha, don't quote me on that, but there's a prophet in the Bible in the Old Testament who is told to basically marry a prostitute, who is, and she is just unfaithful. She is the defining definition of what it means to be a red flag. And he's like, well, okay, God, I'm gonna do it. Like, I don't want to do this. This is not something I feel like I should be doing, but he does. And in that relationship, he becomes a beacon of light. Not only that, but also an example of what it looks like for God to love his people. Because the people of God in the Bible are often described as being adulterous. They're chasing after other gods. They're going after other things, the sins of this world, where they should be worshiping him. And in the same situation, this prophet is asked to marry this prostitute, and she's going and continues to do prostitute work. She's totally unloyal. And it's a really beautiful image, well, it's a really ugly image of what the people of God looks like. They're constantly running away from God, even though he loves them, and all he's ever done has loved them and served them and blessed them. And it's a super powerful story. But if you think about it, like, that guy, like, did not marry the girl of his dreams. You know, he married someone who probably he didn't even want to marry in the first place, which is kind of awful. But also, like, she was totally unloyal, sleeping around, doing all these things. But that's just to say, like, God's plan might be different than that. And, like, I don't know, like, my instinct is always, what I've been taught is always to go back to scripture when someone says, oh, you know, God told me this, or you know, this is true about the love of God. And sometimes I instantly know those things to be true. I'm like, yeah, like I can point to a verse that says that in the Bible. But if I don't know, I usually go to the Bible, and nowhere in the Bible does it say that God will give a wife to whatever man asks for a wife. Like, that is not a verse in the Bible. That is not a promise from God. Most of the time, like, you know, does God love to bless those requests, and does God like to allow romance to happen? Absolutely. I totally believe that it's a beautiful thing, and it's a symbol of God's relationship to the church when people are married, and it's beautiful, and you know, if you have kids together and you raise kids, it's a beautiful example of discipleship. You know, we are going out into the world, and our purpose as Christians is to, number one, know God, but also to make him known to the people on the earth. And that is one of the most beautiful ways to do that, is having kids and raising them up in the faith and teaching them the ways of Christ. But God never promises that you're going to be married. Like, there were so many people across history that God has called completely in different directions. Like, there are people that God has called to go into foreign lands and preach the gospel, and they've died there. They've been executed and never gotten the chance to be married, and I don't want to, like, seem all, you know, fire and brimstone about this, but also, like, I just want to be truthful. That's the goal here. And I think that when people say, hey, it's going to be fine, like, God has someone for you, it's, you know, he'll bring that person into your life, I think that could be true about my life, that absolutely could be something that God does in my life, but that's not something that I'll know until that happens. That's not guaranteed by God or by the scriptures, you know, unless he sends some divine vision to me that says, hey, like, you're going to get married. Like, that. Other than that, like, there's no promise of matrimony in scripture that every person who wants to be married will get married. That's not a real thing. I think on the other side of that, there is something to be said for, like, a lot of people who want to get married end up finding someone and are able to be like, you know, there's kind of that discovery that's like, oh, I get it. I get why I was single all those years. I get why, you know, none of these other relationships worked out, because I wasn't with this person. It wasn't the right time that I was supposed to do these things. I had more to learn. I had new ways to transform. And I don't, you know, I don't want to claim, like, God has done this in my life so that I can get married. Like, I don't want to say that that's a guarantee in my life, because as we've just discussed, that's not a guarantee that God has given us. But I also do believe that even in my relationships with people just day to day, like my friendships, it has really helped me to honor them better, whether I'm, you know, have a friendship with them, or I'm dating someone, or whatever the situation is, or even if it's my mom or my sister, like learning how to love them more and remembering to look for those things. You know, if they're having a bad day, maybe I go get them flowers. I want to clarify, I haven't ever done that, but those are things that I've learned to look for from being in relationships. And so I genuinely think, and I think that goes into this topic I want to talk about of, like, I think that it's easy to look at this conversation we've had so far and be like, wow, that's super discouraging. I may never find someone. And, like, yes, that is a true fact. Like, that is a reality that you have to face as a Christian guy, that you may never find someone to marry. But also realize that there might be someone out there for you. God may have someone for you, and you just don't know who that person is yet. You just maybe haven't met them, or you haven't both been in the right place, or, like, God just hasn't opened that door for you to date someone else. Like, I don't know, I think there's a part of this conversation where it could be really easy to feel really doom and gloom about it, like, oh, I may never get married, oh, you know, and that is a reality that I think every Christian guy has to face, is like, that may not be the plan that God has for your life. But also realize the opportunity that realize the possibility that God may have someone for you, and he's just withholding that right now for whatever reason. You know, maybe you just haven't been in the right place at the right time. Like, God knows what he wants to do. He might have someone for you, but it just isn't the time for that yet. I was having a really, really good conversation with my best friend Eli, where he gave me some really good advice about this. I was just getting really upset because I've asked out, several different people in the past year and a half, and all of them have said no. Like, I've been rejected every single time. It hasn't even been like, yeah, I'll go on a date with you, and it hasn't worked out. It's been like, no, I don't want to go on a date with you, which is just like really discouraging after, the first time it's like, yeah, whatever. And then like the fourth, fifth, sixth time, it's like, all right, so what's the deal here? And I genuinely think God has just allowed me to be in this season of isolation, or even put me in the season of loneliness and isolation, so that I learn to push into him, or really invest in myself, or whatever that lesson is that I'm supposed to learn. That's something I'm still praying about and asking about. But I had this really, really good conversation with my friend Eli, where I was expressing some of these discouragements, and he just stopped for a minute, and he just looked at me, and he was like, I'm pretty sure we were having this conversation over the phone, and he was like, you know what you need to do? Will, you just need to live your life, and God will bring that person to you, And that is such a simple thing that he said, but it totally changed the way I think about relationships and about even myself as a human. Because I think for the past year and a half, I've really been seeking after that. A lot of what I've been taught growing up is, if you want something, work hard to get it. Go after it, pursue it. Not more than you're pursuing Christ, of course. Don't let it become an idol in your life. But even in college, I've been taught, if you want to do theater professionally, just keep auditioning over and over and over at every theater that you can get your hands on, that will pay you and that will see you, and you're going to get 100 rejections before you get one yes. And that was kind of the approach that I had taken to relationships, I think, for a really long time, is basically just find someone that you like and ask them out, and just keep doing that. You're going to face a lot of rejection, and eventually you're going to get a yes. And I think that while that could maybe be a valid way to go about dating, I think that for me, that just wasn't working. And it was just really, really discouraging to over and over be asking people out and just feel like I'm trying to pursue these girls and no one is responding to me in any sort of way. And I think that advice from Eli just really touched me in a way that was really new, because for the past, Eli's been at camp now, but for the past several weeks, I've really been able to be a lot more okay with being single, and also secure in myself. Like, that is something that I have struggled with, I think, for a few years now, is just self-esteem, like being confident in myself. Like, am I doing the right thing? It's really easy as a person trying to make theater his career to doubt, like, is what I'm doing the right thing? Like, is it worth it to drive an hour and 15 minutes every single day to go to rehearsal for a show that I'm not even getting paid that much to do, and I'm in the ensemble? Like, is it really worth it? Like, can I really do this for a living? And I don't think I'll know until I make it, or God makes it clear that I'm supposed to quit. But that totally changed my perspective and has really helped me to just be okay with where God has me right now, and to open my mind to what he has for me to learn. I don't know why I'm in this season. I still want to be dating someone. That desire hasn't necessarily been taken away by any means, but it's been a lot easier to just sit here in the uncomfortability of being single and lonely in this time, because I know that God has something better for me, and that may not be getting married, but it also might be, that I think we have to hold that idea in balance, that no, God may not have that for us in the future. Matrimony may not be a gift that God blesses us with, but also that might be a gift that God blesses us with, and we just have to wait for it. We just have to sit and be patient. And I think that Eli was right. Like, one of the key things, if you're single and you're struggling and you really want to be in a relationship, but you just can't seem to get in one, or it's just not working out for you, there's no one around you that you're like, I want to date them, but I want to date, but there's no one around me that I actually want to date, just live your life, enjoy the blessings that God has given you in this season. And if he wants you to be with someone, he will put that person in your path and will make it so clear. I think so many times I've tried to ask people out. I think it's just been confusing. It's been like, well, it kind of seems like they're flirting with me, but maybe not. Like, I can't really tell. Like, is this just friend behavior or is this flirting behavior? I don't know. And I don't want to say that, the relationship of your dreams is not going to be confusing. I think there will be points of contention where you're going to have to work it out with your person and figure out what works best for both of you and how can you communicate more clearly. And I don't want to say that's going to be all sunshine and rainbows, but also that confusion. I know when God puts a relationship, when God puts a relationship in my life, there isn't going to be that much confusion because if someone really likes me, they'll make it clear to me. And if I like someone else, I'm going to want to spend time with them and we'll attract together, and God will make it clear that we're supposed to be together, and that'll be the end of it, So, or that'll be just the beginning of it, I guess. But, that's been some advice that's been really, really encouraging to me recently. And also just to another thing that's been really helpful for me, if you're in a place where, I'm sorry if this isn't really applicable to you, but if you're in a place where you're single and don't want to be, one thing that's really honestly helped me a lot is asking yourself the question, but would I marry this person? That's a big question, and I understand that sometimes you just kind of have a crush on someone and you're like, I don't even know them well enough. Like, I'm not even thinking that far ahead. Like, I'm barely thinking about dating this person. I don't know if I'd want to date this person. Like, do I want to marry this person? What? Like, that sounds crazy. But genuinely, that has helped me a lot, because I think genuinely I go throughout my life and sometimes I'm having a really good interaction with someone and I'm like, would I want to date this person? Like, this person's single, I'm single, we're around the same age, like, this could work, And that has caused a lot of tension in my own personal life, because I think then I tend to start obsessing about that person, and I'm like, oh, should I ask them out? Should I blah, blah, blah? Should I, try and get in the same room as them? Should I try and hang out with them? And those things kind of stress me out, and it just gets me anxious, because I'm like, well, is that actually what God has for me in this time? Like, let me pray about it, but, what if I don't act now? Like, will I lose the opportunity to date this person if I don't act now? And genuinely, something that's helped me a lot is, I'm going to show you how to minimize heartbreak. Are you ready? Ask yourself, would you marry this person? I know that sounds crazy, but for me, there's one of three answers. Number one is, I don't even know that person well enough to know if I want to date them. I don't know what their beliefs are. I don't know what their thoughts are about these things that I think are really pivotal to being aligned in a relationship, for a relationship to work. And the easy answer to that is well, maybe I get to know them better, but also maybe this isn't the person God has for me, If I'm already thinking that this person is attractive and that's all that I'm basing my kind of thoughts and feelings on, then that's not a great reason to pursue someone anyway. I should be falling in love with their character. And yeah, ideally you would think someone's attractive when you're going to be dating them, but also the most important thing is what they believe and who they are as a person. And so it's pretty easy to dismiss something like that and be like, well, maybe I would get together with this person in the future if I know them better and we align on these things. But right now, clearly that's not what God has for me. And then the second response is, no, I don't think I would marry this person. It'd be fun to date this person, there'd be some drama, there'd be some craziness, they're really cute, it'd be fun. But would I actually want to spend the rest of my life with this person, committing to them every single day and serving them and supporting them through crazy, difficult seasons? No, that's, and most of the times, because I'm like, I don't know if that person would support me in the way that I need to be supported in those seasons where I'm really struggling. And I don't think we would maybe be a good pair in those types of situations. I don't think that relationship would be successful. That's another really easy answer, because that gets you kind of past those butterflies of oh, wow, they're really cute and I really like these qualities about them. But maybe, I've ignored a few things about them. I've ignored a few red flags, and I want to be clear. I think sometimes red flags can just be I don't think I would do well in a relationship with this person, as opposed to these are just universal bad things about people. I think that for me, a big red flag is if somebody's not a Christian. That's something that for a lot of people, a lot of people, that's not a thing that's applicable for the whole world. If you're not a Christian and you're marrying another like non-Christian, like fine, like who cares? But for me, that is a big criteria for me to where that's a deal breaker for me. Like huge red flag. If I start dating someone who's not a Christian, some of my friends should come up to me and be like, hey, this is not what you said you wanted to do. You need to really consider what you're doing right now. Are you okay with this? And the answer will be no, is the truth. So, but then the third answer is maybe, yeah, like I know this person well enough to know what they believe. I think we would work really well together. I'm attracted to this person. I would lay my life down for this person in the most difficult, hard times. And I know that they would have my back in my really difficult times. And those are the people that you want to pursue. And I think that what this has done for me is it not only minimizes the amount of people you're just asking out randomly, but also it gives you a guideline for minimizing heartbreak. Because I think for me, I'm just such an emotional person. I don't know. I think that's, the stereotype for guys is to be super nonchalant and rock hard and, oh, I don't care about anything. It's fine. Like, oh, maybe I have a girlfriend. Maybe I don't. If somebody says that to you, or if that's the way that a guy acts, then that is false. There are probably people that are like that. I have some friends who are like that, who genuinely are just that chill. But most of the time, guys are feeling and thinking a lot more than you think they are. Even if you're a dude. If you're a dude, check up on your friends, bro. Because genuinely, like, I have cried some nights and been ashamed to talk to people about it. And I don't know if that's just my culture telling me to man up and real men don't cry or whatever. But that is a genuine real thing. So that's just a little side tangent. But I think that is the area. Like if all of those boxes are checked, yes, like I would pursue this person. This would work. I think, at least. I know them well enough to know, like, I would want to date them. I would want to marry them, at least from what I know about them right now. Then that's a great reason to start investing in that person and be exclusive with that person and make your intentions clear with that person and ask that person out on a date. And if they reject you, it's probably going to suck. You're probably going to have to deal with heartbreak, but at least you won't have to deal with heartbreak as often as you would if you were just kind of going willy-nilly, trying to date anyone who you thought was pretty, So I think that's the thing that guys sometimes struggle with is having actual standards. That sounds really mean and really bad, but it's genuinely true. Like, I think that guys in general, at least a lot of the guys that I've talked to in the places that I've been, struggle with actually having expectations. And I think, the other way around it too, I think sometimes girls, at least that I've been around and that I know, need a guy to be the perfect person. And I don't want to say, like, don't wait for the perfect person. Obviously, like, you do what God calls you to do. But just as a little, like, shout to the guys, like, listen, bro, raise your standards, okay? Some guys' standards are so low, it's crazy. And this is how you get so much heartbreak and so many mistakes that are made because you don't expect anything out of a relationship. Like, yes, you should obviously lay down your life for your girlfriend, your fiance, your wife. You should obviously, as a Christian guy, you should be protecting her purity. You should be serving her. You should be doing all of these things. You should be praying for her. But also, don't settle for someone who's not going to do those things for you. Because that's what makes healthy relationships happen, is people who are willing to lay down their lives for each other and not just the guy laying down his life all the time. And I think this actually is, like, for a while, that would not have been an accepted mindset, but genuinely in an age of a lot of gender upheaval, that is a really appropriate thing to say. I think there's a lot to be said for husbands and wives have different roles in a marriage. Like, yes, I think that's true, but I also think those terms are flexible. Like, you can have a stay-at-home dad and a mom who works. Is that the stereotype? No. Is that the most common thing? No. But is that a totally fine thing to do? Yeah, like, that's just the norm. That's the stereotype. And even that idea of the norm is being so thrown out right now. And I think, here's the thing. I do want to dive into this a little bit because I do have some opinions about this that I want to share. I think heart intention with pretty much anything in life matters. And I'll do another talk about this at some point because I genuinely believe it's so important. But if you are just trying to live your life, this is the thing that peeves me the most about modern relationships is, well, okay, there's a lot of things that peeve me about modern relationships. One of the things that peeves me about modern relationships is, and my generation in particular, is people are trying too hard to be different. People are trying too hard to overthrow the norm. Here's what I think. The norm has been established, and there is not a problem with you following the norm. That doesn't make you a non-unique person. That doesn't make you a bad person. That doesn't, make you fall in line with the stereotypes. You're giving into the manosphere or whatever. That's not the thing I'm trying to communicate. What I'm trying to communicate is you can be an individual and a unique person and just choose what works best for you and your person. Because listen, heart intention matters. If you're just trying to do something crazy for the sake of doing something crazy, if you're just like, man, I just hate the idea of normal so much that I'm gonna make my life as wacky and as unique as possible, I think respectfully that is a really bad motivation to be doing things, because anything that is not sticking to your unique self is going to be exhausting. Anything that's not sticking to what Christ has for you and what he has provided for you is going to be exhausting, because that's not going to be sustainable for you. You're going to end in heartbreak and failure because you are not following what God has provided for you in this time. Because listen, some relationships function really, really well in the norm, that the man goes out and does a business and the wife stays home and takes care of the kids and makes food, and you have your golden retriever or whatever, you have your 2.5 kids, you live in the suburbs of a town and you drive in to go to work and you go eat ice cream on Saturdays and you have the big family minivan. That works for some people, and I think that if that works for you, great, do that thing. If that doesn't work for you, if you are in a relationship as a guy, like, this is something that I relate to. I don't think it would be that bad to be a stay-at-home dad. Like, sue me. That's not like necessarily what I want to do. What I want to do is be in a relationship with someone where I can, at least for the foreseeable future, go on adventures with. I want to travel. I want to pursuing a career in theater at the same time as my wife is doing whatever the frick she wants to do. Like, if I want to live together, I want to be able to be places together, but also, like, if she wants to stay home and make food and have a dog and be a housewife, that's fine. If she doesn't want to do that, if she wants to go on adventures and build her career and be a businesswoman or be a lawyer or whatever that is that she wants to do, I want her to be able to do that. And if there comes a time when we're like, hey, we want to have kids, who's going to sacrifice, how are we going to make this work, we can figure that out. Like, if I'm with the right person, I know that we can talk that out and figure it out, and maybe that'll be me laying down my acting career for a little bit. Maybe it'll be her putting away her dreams for a second to be able to do that. Like, I don't know what that means. It might depend on who's making the most amount of money. That may be a logistical thing. Anyway, that's kind of a tangent. But I think, listen, if it works for you where to be doing a really non-traditional lifestyle with your person, with your family, then great, do that, but do something because you are seeking to worship God with the life and the situation that he has given you, not because you're just trying to be different, like that. Respectfully, I just don't think that's a good reason to do anything, because it's not sustainable. It's not good for you to do something that you weren't designed to do. That is not, it is not good to go against the current of what God has for you, even if it's painful, even if it's hard for a season. And that doesn't mean don't have standards. That doesn't mean walk into anything or whatever because quote unquote that's what God's given you. No, like, have standards, have discussions, but living a lifestyle is something that you're gonna have to work out with someone who you're with. Like, if you have a partner, congratulations, you're now sharing a life with that person. It's not just you being you. And if you want to be completely not tied down to anything, then just don't be with anyone, or make it very clear to your person, I don't want to get married, I just want to date, and just set clear expectations and boundaries, and go where God has given you. If God has made it clear that you should be in a relationship in this time, go with that. If God has made it clear that you're not supposed to do that, then don't do it, So that's all I wanted to say about that. But I want to move on to a different aspect of this conversation because I think it is genuinely really important. I want to talk about who you should and who you should not date. Dating is a really, really interesting idea. I didn't know this as I was growing up. Dating has not been around for that long. If you consider the grand scheme of human existence, and dating has only been around for 200 years. That is a tiny fraction of humanity's existence. So that is number one thing to consider. I didn't know that. I guess I just grew up being like, I don't know how long dating's been around. It just is the thing that I didn't think about. It's an institution that's been set up in the modern day, and it didn't even start out as modern day dating. Like, our idea of dating is so different than how dating or like courtship started 200 years ago. Like 200 years ago, courtship, like courtship in the 1800s is so different than it is now, we don't even use the same term for it anymore. They said courtship, we say dating. And it's kind of just this thing that's evolved over time. And I think that genuinely it's become something that in our modern United States 2026 context has become something that's genuinely really, really toxic. Just overall, there are so many beautiful relationships, and I just want to make clear, I don't think dating is necessarily evil, but I think that it's really difficult to do it right. I think there's just so many people who do it incorrectly, and dating is generally just, in the modern day, I'll say it how it is, just an avenue for people to pursue pleasure and to test drive a relationship to see if it works. And I'm going to be so honest, like, this is me speaking from a Christian perspective, so you may or may not agree with me, but that is not how human relationships were designed to happen. Dating is not talked about at all in the Bible, and that's not to say let's get rid of it. Like, I think there is a merit to courtship or dating. Like, I think that it can be a very valuable tool if used in the right way, but also there are a lot of ways to do it wrongly. With great power comes great responsibility. I can't believe I just quoted Spider-Man in a talk about relationships, but it's genuinely true. Like, with any tool, I remember having a Bible teacher that told me any tool that is really, really powerful has the same capacity for evil that it does good. Like a paperclip, probably not that high capacity for like good. It is a great invention. It helps you hold papers. It's a great thing. It also doesn't have a huge capacity for evil. It's like, could you maybe stab someone with it? Maybe. Could you electrocute yourself by putting it in an outlet? Yeah, probably. But like generally a paperclip just sitting on a table is not that dangerous or whatever. But if you have a knife or a gun's a great example. Actually, let's go with a knife. A knife's a good example. If you have a knife, that has a really high capacity for good. You can defend yourself. You can defend people you love. You can think about all the things you can do with a knife. Like, you can go outside and, carve a stick. You can, if you're a hunter and you like hunting animals, you can carve an animal, or you can skin an animal. You can do a lot of really helpful things. You can even just day-to-day life, like, you can cut zip ties with a knife. Like, there's a lot of really helpful things you can do with a knife. It also can be used for a good amount of evil. Like, if you can stab someone, you could kill someone pretty easily with a knife, You can throw it, and it can be incredibly dangerous. If a child gets a hold of it, if a pet gets a hold of it, it can be really, really detrimental. It has a really high capacity for evil and a really high capacity for good. And I think the same thing is true of dating. There can be some beautiful things. It can be the way that people come together in marriage and become a beautiful depiction of the body of Christ married to Christ himself. Like, it is a beautiful, beautiful thing that can lead to a lot of amazing things. And if done right, it's a really good example for other people as well. But it can also be done really incorrectly. It is a very prominent place for a lot of just bad things to happen. There's a lot of, just grossness that happens. There's a lot of toxicity that happens. There's a lot of abuse and people being taken advantage of in relationships. That is such a real thing. And so, that being said, I think that you have to be really intentional with who you date. I talked about in the past, like, be careful who you're friends with. Pick your friends wisely. Obviously, the Lord brought Eli and I together, and that has been a huge thing. The same is true with dating. You need to really be intentional with the person you pick to date, because you don't want to date someone who's going to severely damage you. You are considering, when you're really considering dating, you're considering opening up your heart and your mind and your emotions, and maybe even parts of you physically, to that person. And I don't want to be like, make out, do all that crazy stuff, whatever. I'm saying, like, you grow attached to that person because you are probably hugging them. You might make the decision to kiss them. Like, that might be something that you do. You are not only putting your mental and emotional self on the line, you are also putting your body on the line. You are putting your physical self on the line. That may change the way that you live your life a little bit. For me, like, instead of taking as much time to rest as I normally would, I might be investing in a relationship, and that is something that, even in a very small way, is going to affect my mental and physical health. And that's okay. Like, getting into a relationship is not a bad thing, but I think you just have to be careful who you get into a relationship with. Too many times I've considered getting into a relationship with someone, and then as I get into a relationship with that person, as I start to pursue that person, I learn that there are things about them that I don't think are compatible with who I am as a person and my goals in life and what I want to do and what God has made clear that is my purpose right now. I just genuinely think that I think that you just have to wait for God to make it clear to you when you're supposed to be in a relationship, because God will ready you for that moment when it's time. There are so many people, I think, that are like scared to get into a relationship because they're not ready. Don't be, because God will make it clear. If God wants you to be in a relationship, not only will he make that clear to you, but he will also prepare you, as you take that step in faith, he will make it clear to you. And if you're the type of person that's like, man, I'm really ready for a relationship, like I am, and God has not given you that blessing, he's going to make it clear to you when you're supposed to be in a relationship. If you're worried and you're like, hey, I think I'm missing out, like, don't be, because God's going to make it clear when you are supposed to be in a relationship with someone. He's going to make it clear. I think that dating has some great benefits. I think in one, it is a way to essentially get to know someone and get a taste of what a relationship over a period of a long time might look like with that person, because you do want to get to know someone really, really well before you get engaged to them or marry them or live your life with them. I think that that's genuinely a benefit of dating. You get the opportunity to know someone really well. You get the opportunity to live life kind of with that person, in a sense, thinking about them, talking to them, maintaining a relationship. I think getting in a relationship is so easy. Maintaining a relationship is so much more difficult. And you learn, does it work for you to maintain a relationship with each other? Is that a thing that is plausible for you and your partner? And that's a beautiful thing. I think that's a great thing about dating. But I also want to say that I think oftentimes dating is used as a way. I think the purpose of dating is this, for anyone, to get married. It shouldn't be to test drive a relationship. It shouldn't be to just have a little bit of fun. It should be to get married. If you're not seeking to get married, why are you dating? I genuinely don't understand. And this is something that, like, I want to be open to hearing about. I know there's a lot of people who have great relationships that either date long term or, are just dating for fun, and that's okay. But for me, that has only hurt me in my life, and that has only hurt people I really love and am really close with. That has been a point of contention. There have been people that I've dated where I've been like, hey, I think that I want to get married to you at some point. Like, if this continues to go correctly, like, there have been people that I have either taken on dates or dated and have had that discussion with and been like, hey, I think the point of dating is to eventually get married when both of us are ready for that. And the response has been, oh no, I'm just kind of doing this for fun. Like, I'm okay just being in this relationship and having this relationship, but I don't think I want to be with you forever. And that is the most confusing thing to me, because that is just putting yourself in a position for heartbreak. And excuse my ignorance, but I just don't get it. Like, I would love to entertain a conversation with people about this, because it genuinely just doesn't make sense to me, because the way that my brain works and the way that I understand my reality as a person is that if I am going to give someone my heart and my mind and myself, even just a little bit in dating, I am fully moving in that direction with the intention of eventually marrying that person. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. If you get to a place where you're like, this relationship is not gonna work, break up with them. You know, like, that's not a loving thing to do, to realize that you're not gonna wanna be with someone and just keep dating them. Like, it's just gonna make it worse when you do inevitably break the relationship off. I see so many people who are in relationships and are afraid to break those off because they're like, oh, I just don't want to hurt them. Like, oh man, like, this really sucks. Like, this is a really hard conversation. And to that, I say, yeah, it sucks. I've been through that. I've broken up with people in the past. I've cried for days. It's horrible. It's I don't want to pretend like it's a good experience, but it's the loving thing to do. You know, if you're in a relationship with someone and you realize, like, man, this is not going to work out. Like, I am not in this relationship anymore. I do not need to be here. This is not what God has for me. And God makes that clear to you. Break up with someone. But I think that when you are looking for someone to date, you have to be aware of some of these things. Like, is this person going to prioritize my mental and physical well-being, and also security and safety and purity, as much as I'm going to support them? Or is that person going to support me more than I'm going to support them? And that might have to be a heart check for you, where you're like, yo, I need to get better about this. I need to grow in this area, and maybe this isn't the right time to date someone. And I think first and foremost, I want to say, like, God's going to make it clear, you know, when you're supposed to be in a relationship and not. And that's why you have to be, that's one of the reasons why it's so good to just be constant in prayer and be constantly reading the word, because you do want to be sensitive to the Spirit and know when God is calling you to date someone and when he's not. And then also just like a few logistical things that I've learned that are good to look for in people when I'm considering, should I date this person, should I not, is, what do they believe about the world? Because genuinely, if you believe completely different things about the universe, that is going to be really, really difficult to work through. Like, if I, as a Christian, believe that my purpose is to know God and to make him known to the people around me, and I choose to date someone and marry someone who is an atheist and believe that God doesn't exist, that's pretty incompatible, because my sole purpose in life is to worship a God that they don't believe in or refuse to acknowledge exists, and to make that God known to the people of the earth, when their goal, you know, as a person, at least in terms of their beliefs, is to, I don't know, like, pursue their own pleasures. I don't know, whatever it is, it's not in alignment with my views as a Christian. And I don't want to sound elitist when I say that. I don't want to be like, oh, I'm only gonna date Christians. That is true about me, but it's not because I'm like, oh, this is the in group. I'm you know, only people who are in this group have the privilege to date me, you know? It's not that. It's because I know that if I get into a relationship with someone who's not a Christian, we are going to be totally unaligned on our life goals and what we want to do with our lives. Because even if we want to do the same thing, we want to do theater, it's for completely different reasons. My reason is to worship God. And, you know, if they're an atheist, I can't even tell you what a goal of an atheist would be, but it's not to worship God. I can tell you that. It's the complete opposite, you know? So I think that that's something that's really important to look for. I don't think you have to align on every tiny little thing, you know? Like, first of all, if you were trying to find someone who, you know, is in alignment with every single one of your preferences, you're never going to find that person. It's just not going to happen. There are no two people alike. Humans are inherently unique because that's the way God created us. And it's beautiful and it's wonderful. But, like, if I don't date someone because they don't like shrimp, yeah, it's a really bad reason to date someone. Or I don't, you know, I think even, like, there are some things that you might want to consider in a relationship, but you know, I would say probably aren't make or break things. For me, I love to go to the beach. That is a thing that I really enjoy. It's a thing that's really life-giving for me. If I date someone who hates the beach, that's okay. Like, yes, that might be something that I want to think about, and that might be something that I want to be aware of. This might be contentious in our relationship, but that's one reason why dating is great, is because I can hold that in my mind and talk to them about that and be like, hey, this might be a difficult thing to work through, and see if you can work through it in the dating atmosphere. And if you can't, that might be a make or break thing for you. But also, if it's a thing that you get to the point of like, maybe they're able to, you know, lay down their life and go to the beach every once in a while, even if they don't really want to. And maybe as well, that means that you compromise and don't go to the beach as often as you would like, you know, and that may just be a way that you are able to serve each other. That may be a thing. And if you're not willing to do any of that stuff, then maybe that person is not right for you, or maybe you're not right for that person, or whatever. And I think that's also a really another way to know who to date, is examine your own life. What type of person are you? You know, what type of person so one of the most valuable pieces of advice that someone gave to me is, be the type of person that you would want to date. You know, when you look for things in someone, like, oh, you know, are they strong in their faith? Oh, you know, are they prioritizing the relationships in their life? Are they doing the work? Are they, you know, whatever, fill in the blank with whatever it is. Ask yourself that question. Are you doing those things? Am I the type of person that people would want to date? Or am I someone who someone looks at and they're like, that's a red flag there, you know? And not to just, you know, make yourself the ultimate green flag so that anyone can date you. And that's not necessarily the goal. The goal is to be the right person for the right person, you know? Like, if you find the right person, you want to be the right person for them and not just the other way around. Because if they're the right person for you, but you're not the right person for them, then that is not going to be a relationship that works. That is not going to be a compatible dating relationship. So I think I have more to say, but I think I'm probably going to save it for later. Yeah, I hope this was beneficial. I don't know. I have so many thoughts. This is something that I'm really, really passionate about, is not only just relationships, but also the science of how they work. And I don't know, it just fascinates me all the time just to study relationships, not in a weird way, but in like, healthy relationships, I want to know how they work. Bad relationships, I want to know why they failed. Like, this is something that's genuinely so interesting to me. So if you like this type of content, please leave a like. If this is boring to you, let me know, because I'll stop talking about it. I'll talk about something else. But thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great day. God bless. Let's get back to the game.